What's going on, everyone? Chargers Now is presented by Prize Picks. I'm your host, Will Ortner. And yesterday, ESPN went through the top 10 pass rushers in the National Football League. And while we were able to kind of break down some exciting news around the Chargers yesterday, we missed out on the opportunity to talk about how clearly ESPN would have had a Chargers player listed on this rankings. I mean, I think that when you look at the edge rushers on this team, it would only make sense for the Chargers to say, hey, we need to make sure that there is a Chargers player on this, ESPN that is, right? You go down the list, and there's all kinds of talent in the National Football League, but to sit here and say that the Chargers do not have that type of talent, well, that's just incorrect. I mean, Tuli is a fantastic edge rusher. Khalil Mack, he's not the same player that he once was. But I think it would be incorrect to say that he's still not a very talented player. And, of course, when you look at these types of lists by ESPN, PFF as well, CBS Sports, Bleacher Report, Fox Sports, well, you name the list, typically there's some guys that are pretty high up or higher up than they probably should be based on the most recent years. But if you look at the entirety of their career, it makes sense. Guys look at a player like Khalil Mack and they say, hey, maybe he's not a top 10 guy now, but I'm not going to disrespect a future Hall of Famer. So to me, I look at these two edge rushers for the Chargers, and it's clear. One of them is going to end up being mentioned, of course, right? Like when you look at this Chargers team, there's been success. There's been success over multiple years. There's hopefully now going to be success over multiple defensive coordinators. I just think that it would be a poor list, an incorrect list, if they did not have a Charger on it. Specifically Tuli. So I'm going to say this right now. I think that he's a top 10 edge rusher in the National Football League. I think it's very clear with the production that Tuli has had, the success that he's had over the years against the different tackles. I think he's a quality player, and I think he's continuing to grow into being a quality player for the Chargers. That's why I think that contract extension is going to come any day now. Do you agree with that sentiment? Is he a top 10 edge rusher in the National Football League? Let me know if you agree or you disagree. Unfortunately, ESPN and the experts that they interviewed, scouts, players, coaches, executives, would actually disagree with us. They do not believe that Tuli is a top 10 edge rusher. And I kind of understand the list, even with him not on it, right? Myles Garrett's had a lot of success. Micah Parsons, if he doesn't get injured last year, one of the better years. Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter are shooting up boards with just how talented they are, how well they're playing. Maxx Crosby, in what was, air quotes, a down year, had a lot of success. Aidan Hutchinson had a lot of success. Now, what I don't necessarily get is a guy like Nik Bosa. He gets hurt halfway through the year. The numbers aren't going to back up what he was. TJ Watt's still having a lot of success, but clearly he's going down. Okay, Tuli, he might not be in the top 10, but surely Tuli or Khalil Mack, one if not both, are going to be mentioned in the honorable mentions, correct? Wrong. Jared Verse, Trey Hendrickson, Josh Hines-Allen. Those are the guys that are mentioned. Now, when you look at Jared Verse, that's a young guy that's ascending. Okay, fits kind of the Tuli mold, but maybe there's a little bit more of a conversation around him because, well, he was with the Rams. The Rams went a little further than the Chargers. Okay, Trey Hendrickson obviously had a lot of success over his career. Now, he's really only a getting after the passer type of guy, but okay. Josh Hines-Allen, in my opinion, one of the more underrated edge rushers in the National Football League. Okay. All right, maybe they didn't clear enough to get ESPN honorable mentions. There's no way that they're not mentioned in the also received votes. But they're not there. Travon Walker is there. Jalen Phillips is there. Montez Sweat is there. Two guys from the Steelers in Nick Hayberg and Alex Highsmith. They are there. Latu from the Colts. He is there. How in the world did the Chargers not get at least one of those two players on that voting list? I can come up with legitimate, easy arguments for both players. Tuli, young, ascending player, has the stats to back it up. Khalil Mack, yes, he's on a clear downturn in his career, but there are plenty of other players who are on a clear downturn of their career that are on those lists, yet neither one of them made it. Now, why is that? I'm going to go through the rest of today's video where I talk about why they should have been on this list, but first, I need to let you know that today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app and is the best place to win cash while watching sports. With the baseball season in full swing, there's no better time to cash in with our friends at Prize Picks. And I'll tell you this, the app is really easy to use. To qualify for a Prize Picks lineup, pick 2 to 6 players and select more or less on stat projections, including hits, home runs, strikeouts, and several others across all sports. One thing I love is the new social feeds feature, where you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups with a single click. You can actually follow me on the app, at BigWill7774, to see all of my lineups. I have a lineup for the football action going on later on this year. Quentin Johnston, more on his receiving TDs. Kenyon Sadiq, more on his receiving TDs. Jackson Smith and Jigba, more on his receiving TDs. New user offer. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with Prize Picks. Clickable link to download the app is in the comments and description. So let's start with Tuli here first. I tell you right now that the success that this kid has had year after year just continues to improve from a tackle perspective, from a sack perspective, from a TFL perspective. And I understand that there might be some complaints for some when it comes to, hey, he's really great at getting after the passer. I'd like to get some of that run-stopping ability pushed up as well. But when you look at a guy like Trey Hendrickson, when you look at a couple other guys that are already on this list, there is no reason why Tuli should not be in the conversation as well. He went from an 8 TFL guy to an 11 to a 20 TFL guy. He went from a 4.5 sack to an 8.5 to a 13 sack guy. He is someone who's had a ton of success in his career, and for a guy who's being a second-round pick, the fact that he's already shown this type of progression, the ability to put himself as the #1 edge rusher for a team and outshine a guy like Odafe Oweh, outshine a guy like Khalil Mack, shows you just how talented he is. And when you look at this voting, okay, let's have a conversation. I don't want to vote someone that has had a career of success but recently hasn't been as great. Okay, there's no reason then why Tuli shouldn't be on that list because he's young. He's ascending. He's had the success recently. He just put out his best year ever, and every year he gets better and better and better. To me, this is a clear disregard for him. Now, of course, former defensive coordinator Jesse Minter deserves a lot of success for the type of defense that he created in Los Angeles and how they were able to execute at a high level. That doesn't mean you need to detract from a player like Tuli. The fact that he wasn't on this list is a travesty. I think he's top 10. That's fine. You don't have to think he's top 10. You cannot tell me, as you go through the list, that he's not top 13 with the honorable mentions, or that he's honestly top 20 because you add in the also ran votes or the also voted for players. That puts him essentially 20th or worse, which that's crazy to me. Tuli should not be there. Hit the thumbs up button if you agree with my take right now on the disgrace or disrespect that the Chargers are getting right now from ESPN. Let's go and take a look at Khalil Mack. Now, I'm not saying that based on last year should he be on this list, but you know who else shouldn't have been on that list based on last year? Nick Bosa. You know who else shouldn't have been on that list based on last year? TJ Watt. There are plenty of guys that were on that list that did not deserve to be on that list for a multitude of reasons, either receiving votes or already on the top 10 or in the honorable mentions. You cannot tell me that some of those guys do not have a better full body of work than a guy like Khalil Mack, who, if you remember, yes, the numbers are down last year. He only played in 12 games. Imagine what Khalil Mack's numbers would have been last year if they would have been higher. Now, I understand. Some people are going to say, Will, this needs to be a recent vote, which is fine if that's what you believe. But that's clearly not what ESPN is doing. ESPN is looking at a list and saying, who are the best players in our eyes? And there are clearly guys who were put on that list that did not deserve to be on that list based off of last year, based on the last 2 years, based on the last 3 years. But we're on that list because of success that they've had throughout their career. And to me, I think that Khalil Mack, if you're voting based on that type of criteria, then should be on the list. He is 3 years away removed from a double-digit sack year where he was one of the top guys in the National Football League. Again, If you want it to just strictly be based on last year, then Tuli should be on and Khalil Mack should not be. If it's based on the entirety of what they've been able to do, then it should be Khalil Mack and not Tuli. But the fact that both of them are left off the list shows that the criteria is not done correctly or voted for in a way that is not clear and concise. Now, I will ask you this, because I do think that this has been asked as a question for Chargers fans. Should we be worried about the most recent news from ESPN? Yes or no? Because of the fact that the Chargers did not get someone on the edge rusher list, is that worrisome to you? To me, I think the answer is no. And I'm going to lean towards more of a disrespect here, or a lack of knowledge more so than necessarily bad news. Because when I look at these two players, and honestly, the entire edge rusher depth chart, I think there are a lot of guys that are going to surprise people over the next couple of years. I think there's a lot of guys on this team that are going to have success specifically in that edge rusher room. And so to me, I view this more as a spot where we're saying this is a disrespect, and these guys are going to come into the year with a chip on their shoulder. And I hope that I am correct in that sentiment. But I'll tell you right now, it certainly is going to worry some people that right now in NFL circles, the Chargers are not viewed as having a guy in the top 19 edge rushers. Maybe they had Tuli at 20. Somehow, I kind of doubt that. Hit that subscribe button. Don't miss any of the content that we have here on the channel. Really appreciate everyone coming in, hanging out. We're going to have content out for you every single day, so do not miss it. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video. Can't wait to see you next time. Bolt up.